you to picture the following scenario. Your 18-year-old son suffers a severe head injury and is taken to the hospital. Before being formally declared dead, surgeons begin cutting him open and removing his organs for transplant. The Jacobs family didn't have to imagine this nightmarish scenario. It was their reality. In 2009, 18-year-old Gregory Jacobs of Bellevue, Ohio, suffered a closed head injury while snowboarding on a high school-sponsored ski trip in Findlay Lake, New York. He was airlifted to Hammett Medical Center in northwestern Pennsylvania, where he died. His parents later filed a lawsuit claiming that doctors caused Gregory's death by administering medication and by removing his breathing tube. The couple also alleged that their son had not been formally declared brain dead when surgeons began the transplant procedure. According to Gregory's mother, Teresa, the records indicated that they started harvesting procedures, including the incision, when he was alive, and he was not even pronounced dead until 29 minutes later. The Jacobs settled the lawsuit against Pennsylvania Hospital for $1.2 million. Now, you may be thinking this is a one-off, but this isn't the only horror story of organ procurement from living donors. Far from it. In 2012, a 19-year-old girl in a coma after a horrific car crash woke up just as doctors were about to declare her brain dead and harvest her organs. In 2016, a teenage victim of a mass shooting in Michigan made a full recovery just as hospital staffers were getting ready to harvest her organs. In 2018, Trenton McKinley woke up from a coma just before organ harvesting. And just this year, a North Carolina pastor narrowly escaped death after his wife stopped doctors from prematurely declaring him brain dead and harvesting his organs. All of these stories have one thing in common, that the patients were incorrectly diagnosed as brain dead before they were prepped for organ transplant surgery. So that begs the question, what exactly is brain death? Where did the concept come from, and why do doctors so often get it wrong? Well, the truth may shock you. Harvesting organs from living patients is illegal under what is known as the dead donor rule. The DDR not only prevents removing livers, lungs, hearts, both kidneys, and the like from living people, but its corollary forbids killing patients for the purpose of obtaining them, even if they consent. This dead donor rule made it difficult for doctors to acquire the oxygen-rich organs they need for transplant. So what they did was redefine death. That's right, back in the 1960s, the medical industry you already trust about as far as you can throw it, invented a brand new and completely pseudoscientific definition of death so they could procure organs from living donors.
Brain death is a lie. It's a lie that's been told over and over again, so people don't even realize it's a lie anymore. But it's been a lie from the beginning, continues to be a lie. The way it occurred was that Christian Bernard did the first heart transplant in South Africa in 1967. 3 days later, they did the second heart transplant, and you don't know where that is, but I'll tell you, it was done in Brooklyn, New York. And what they did is they cut the beating heart out of a 3-day-old baby and transplanted it into an 18-day-old baby. And at the end of their surgeries, a short time after the end of their surgeries, both of those babies were dead. It was illegal, it was immoral. And so they had to do something to make it legal. And so what they did is they set up a committee at Harvard, and the committee invented brain death. The committee did not do studies on dogs or cats or rats. They didn't collect data on human beings. They just invented brain death. And they had no patient data. They had no basic science studies.
Dr. Adrian Kantowitz performed that heart transplant on December 6th, 1967. And just 8 months later, brain death made its abrupt entrance into clinical medicine when the ad hoc committee of the Harvard Medical School published its report in August 1968. Now, not only was the concept of brain death pulled out of thin air with no clinical studies to back it up, the imaginary diagnosis is also ill-defined. The definition varies from country to country and state to state, meaning you could be clinically dead in California and alive and thriving just next door in Arizona. Now, even with its widespread acceptance, the concept of brain death is still controversial in some circles, and in the case of organ harvesting, often leads to legal disputes between medical institutions and the donor's next of kin. So our friends in white coats have been looking for a new strategy to get their filthy paws on our valuable body parts. They want to do away with the dead donor rule altogether and replace it with DBD, death by donation. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Instead of redefining death, they've decided to redefine morality. Op-ed contributor E. Wesley Ellie says, at international medical conferences in 2018 and 2019, I listened as hundreds of transplant and critical care physicians discussed donation after death. This refers to the rapidly expanding scenario in Canada and some Western European countries whereby a person dies by euthanasia with a legalized lethal injection that he or she requested, and the body is then operated on to retrieve organs for donation. At each meeting, the conversation unexpectedly shifted to an emerging question of death by donation. In other words, ending people's lives with their informed consent by taking them to the operating room under general anesthesia, opening their chest and abdomen surgically while they are still alive to remove vital organs for transplantation into other people. What does it mean for all of us when our healers, physicians, are in a position that directly overrides nearly 2,500 year-long prohibitions against taking life? Doctors take an oath to do no harm on the basis that human beings are inherently valuable and cannot be killed or injured for one's personal interests. If that oath is thrown out the window and replaced with do whatever thy patient wants, we have agreed collectively as a society that human life is no longer sacred and can be exploited for personal gain. As long as the patient consents, of course. A system that will inevitably lead to a whole slew of ethical concerns, yes. But what's even more concerning than that is once our sense of right and wrong becomes relative, how long will it be before, just like death, the medical establishment decides to redefine consent to their own benefit? At this point, it's not a scenario we have to imagine, because of course, we're already there. Avery's Law makes organ and tissue donation automatic in New Brunswick with some exceptions. New Brunswick has just become the second jurisdiction in Canada to adopt a presumed consent model for organ and tissue donation. Under amendments to the Human Tissue Gift Act passed last week, most New Brunswickers 19 and older will automatically be presumed to agree to donate their organs and tissue when they die, unless they opt out, also known as deemed consent. The new law is very good news for New Brunswick, according to Dr. Remy LeBlanc. He believes it will increase the number of organs available for transplants and significantly decrease the number of people who die waiting. Oh yes, isn't it amazing how much stuff you can accumulate if you just steal it? Honestly, Bill Cosby grew up in the wrong time. I mean, we went from hashtag Me Too to hashtag No means yes real quick, didn't we? And the most amazing part about it is that this new law has real support from real human beings. Here are just a few comments I received on a short video I posted to Instagram about it. I'm a big fan and have been following you for a while now, but you're wrong here and playing word games. They are talking about people who are brain dead and the body is kept alive by machines. If you don't want to be an organ donor, then don't. It's absolutely wrong for the government to automatically sign you up for it, but it's also pretty pathetic for you to try to talk people out of organ donation. In other words, it's wrong for the government to take your organs without informed consent, but it's also wrong for me to inform you about what you're consenting to. That's a head scratcher. Elliot Farm says, stop spreading misinformation. It's harmful and breeds stupidly. Opt out if you like, but stop spreading lies about this is done. Looks like he's met the criteria for a transplant. Sarah J. Steinbach says, genuinely curious. Why is this a nightmare? I don't know, Sarah. Why don't you come to my house with your favorite pair of dull scissors and we'll find out. Kenneth Dean says, come on, people. Don't fall for this kind of American-style conspiracy bullshit. It really sounds like you are against the idea of donating organs at all. If you're too selfish to donate your organs, then opt out of it. Simple. And it's the height of stupidity to suggest that they harvest your organs while you're alive. This is just another way for you people to bash our healthcare workers. Despicable. Yes, opting out is simple, Kenneth, but what's even more simple is the government leaving me the alone so I don't have to do anything at all. Literally requires zero effort from both parties. I Was Right says, don't spread disinformation. Of course, for organs to be of use for transplant, the donor must be living. But you are probably nearly brain dead, and if not, they will sedate you. You do those waiting for organs a disservice spreading false information. Well, if I got any doctors watching who are looking for organ donors, I'm happy to announce that my comment section is full of the clinically brain dead. Alright guys, that's it for me today. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out some other videos from my channel. Also, I noticed a few of you commenting about a couple of weeks ago, you said I was missing, but I actually did do a weekly roundup. It was blocked from YouTube, so I did a community post about it and posted it to Rumble. So if you guys want to check out that video from a couple of weeks ago, head over to Rumble. I will put the link in the description below. All right, bye!